Hi everybody, welcome back to School of Scarlett. Today I have another message for you. So I just got back from going into downtown Houston. I went into the city. I had some business to take care of there. I was actually wearing like a professional blazer and this is what I had underneath, but I just switched into this because it is really hot out here. But I wanted to go ahead and share this message with you before I go in and change and all of that. I'm in that kind of vibe right now. So I just got back from the city. Like I said, it was really busy. It was crazy. I was in downtown Houston and I was near the courthouse area, and every parking lot was full. There was honking, there was yelling, there was screaming, there was people not listening to the signs, everything like that. There was people that was upset. There was slowing down of things. There was a lot going on, let's just say that. But I've been in the city quite a bit. I'm used to going into downtown Houston. I'm used to traveling almost all of Houston. I used to really do a lot of work all throughout Houston. So I'm used to all of that. So for me, I was able to drive there, park, get out, but I was more in the observer role today. And it really brought to my attention why I don't live in the city, why I don't really resonate with being in that sort of environment. So why did I choose to move and live in a place where some people might consider it hard? There's no internet, there's really no TV services, there's no trash services even. Your neighbors are far apart from each other. You have like this level of privacy where you don't like talk to people all the time. Why do I choose to live away from society? Why is that my choice? Well, today it made it a little bit more clear, which is why I'm sharing this message here today. So nature is very much different. Where I live, to me, I consider it like a natural sanctuary. I consider it like my own personal natural sanctuary. So when I was in the city today, what I noticed was, there was just concrete everywhere, right? The sidewalks. So I had to park like several parking lots away from even where I was going, and I had to walk all of this concrete. And I'm used to walking in the grass. I'm used to walking, in my home. I walk outside barefoot. I really ground with the earth. It really gives back to me. It's, it's nourishing. It feels that way. But walking from these parking lots to where I was going, just walking in the simple concrete, for example, just that, I felt like the energy was being pulled out of me rather than put in me. So I'm really used to, like I said, feeling grounded, feeling the earth nourishing me. But I noticed with the concrete, it was a pull outward. So when you're used to being in stillness, hearing your own self, feeling your own energies, you're very much aware of when there's a contrast. So being in the city, I could feel the contrast of what was being pulled out of me simply by walking on concrete rather than grass. And I know we can't all just be walking in grass all the time, but you can create a life for yourself where you have a sense of natural life and rhythms to you rather than just being in a reacting mode. One of the things I noticed being downtown was how people were reacting to everything. They weren't in their own power. They were just simply reacting to everything that was going on. So I know it was a chaotic environment that I was in, but this is an environment that a lot of people go to work there every day, live there every day. So it's not just specific because I was in that space today. Some people literally live this every day. And so what I noticed was there was a lot of honking because they're one-way streets and people don't oftentimes know what they're doing down there, especially if they're not used to being there. People weren't listening to like the crosswalks and like how you had to cross the street. And so people were getting upset. Some people were rushing. You could tell a lot of people were rushing. That was one of the energies I could feel, is like everybody was in a rush. I could see that some people were upset. There's a large homeless population downtown. And they were upset simply that there was homeless people down there. You could see that they were upset that people were in their way, that people were talking to them. They had no time for it. So there was like this really big rush going on. As soon as I got into the building, I also noticed that. I noticed a lot of people felt like they were reacting to everything that was going on. So you had to go through like metal detectors just to get into the building. And so people, you could see, were upset that they had to take their shoes off to go through the metal detector. They were like reacting in a very negative way to everything that they were seeing. I went to the elevators and there was tons of elevators. I don't know, like 16 elevators. This is a very tall building. And so they were divided up by what floor you were going to go by. And there was like a person there that was just very impatient, was like touching all of the buttons, turning them all on. And they would hear like one noise and they'd run to that elevator where they noticed that they couldn't go to the place that they were going. They'd get frustrated and run to the other side. So there was a lot of chaos there, and I was reminded of, going there. I in the past had to go accompany people to court and things like that as part of the job that I did in social work. So it reminded me a lot about this. It seemed like people weren't very genuine. Like, as far as when I finished what I was doing, the person and the people that I was with were so ready to get out of there to go on to the next thing that it was just like, oh, well, thank you and bye-bye. And it wasn't like talking or trying to slow down or, anything. It really felt very, very cold and very, very, like harsh. Like it doesn't feel like there's a connection there. It feels more of a disconnection. So one of the reasons that I live in the country, that I live away from society, you could say, is because I can hear my own inner voice. When you're in an area or in a place where you're constantly having to react to things happening, whether it's even just your phone, the scrolling, the notifications, the constant emails, the constant phone calls, people talking to you, people in your environment reacting to everything is happening around you, it oftentimes doesn't allow you to hear your own inner voice. So one of the things that I teach when connecting to your intuition is that you really have to develop stillness and space to hear your own inner voice, because your inner voice, intuition, speaks almost like with a whisper. And if you have a lot of noise around you, you're not going to hear that whisper, or that whisper is going to get drowned out. So you have to create a space for that where you are, or you really do have to seek a place where you have stillness, where you have quiet, where you have space for that, like I've created for myself. So I knew early on, just even simply living in apartments, there was times I had to live in apartments because there was no other choice. I had to live there. And I could, even in my own apartment, create the most beautiful sanctuary. My apartments were usually very nice. I created exactly the decor that I wanted, the lighting that I wanted, my beds, everything how I wanted. So I felt very much comfortable even in an apartment setting. But what I couldn't get away from was being able to hear like the neighbors arguing upstairs, the fights going on next door, people constantly going in and out of their doors, and hearing them outside. And there was just a lot of commotion and people that shouldn't be there that were there. And so there was no control of the outside environment in that kind of way. So there was still a lot of noise, even though I tried to create that sanctuary for myself. So I always yearned to go somewhere where I had nature, where I had space between me and others, because even being too close to others, it creates an environment of having to react, talk to others in a way where they influence you in a way that it's hard to hear your own self. So when you can be totally alone, when you can be totally one with nature, you begin to get downloads, you begin to get more inner messages from your own self actually. But when you're around even others, it becomes complicated. I remember I had a place where I lived in a home that I really loved, and it was more of a community, like a master plan community. And so I liked that aspect of it, especially with young children. But then I noticed that every time I went to the park, every time I went to the pool, I had to make sure that there was space for my daughter, that the kids were taking turns, that they weren't arguing, that they weren't fighting over the space. The pools, there was the same way. And I would meet people and they would become friends and stuff, but then after a while there'd be like this competition there of, does your kid go to this gymnastics, does your kid do that? And the natural way that things happen was to want the best for your child. So I'd go enroll my daughter in this, go to this library program, go to this, and I was so busy keeping up with everything that everyone was telling me that I wasn't listening to myself. As soon as I moved to the country, I began a whole nother lifestyle. A lifestyle that was very familiar to me, because I grew up in a way that I didn't grow up in the country, but I grew up in a way that you went outside and you went out and played all day. And at the end of the day, when the lights came out the lights went out down, the sun went down, and then the street lights came on, you were to come home. So I grew up in that kind of setting where, you took your bike out and you went riding outside, and, you know, explored, and I did all kinds of stuff and created like my own world outside, even though I didn't live in the country, but things were much different back then. So when I moved to the country here, I really wanted something like that for my daughter, and I found that. My daughter was able to go outside, get on her bike, go riding, and there was no feeling of danger. She could do this by herself, and I didn't have to worry like we do now. She could go play out in nature. If she wanted to go play out in the forest, she could play in the forest. If she wanted to go play out near the river, she could play out near the river. If she wanted to play with little animals, they were everywhere. If she wanted to, like, you know, stay up at night and listen to the birds and, you know, the owls and things at night and the bats and watch the stars, we could do that. There was a lot of connecting with oneself there, and I found that for my daughter, and I found it for myself. So when I found that, I never wanted to let go of it. Yes, I didn't have internet. Yes, I didn't have trash services. Yes, I didn't have any TV. I didn't have anything like cable or even satellite. I didn't have. What we had was DVDs, and they were specifically chosen things that we wanted to watch, and we watched together. And it wasn't something that we did all of the time because we didn't have very much of it. So a lot of times we played games, we cooked together, we did art together, we did a lot more enriching things. And you know, now I still live in the country and I'm able to do that. My daughter can play outside, and it's not about competitions of where is she going to gymnastics class, are we going to the next little gym, are we going to go to, you know, this library event, are we going to go sign up for this orchestra event, or, you know, are we going to go do the art class that's happening here. There's no more of that. It's like we just go outside and we let nature kind of guide us in a way where we feel nourished. And if we feel like doing art, we do it. If we feel like doing, you know, gymnastics, whatever, we get out in our lawn and we start doing cartwheels. It's very much free. It's very much light. It allows you to direct your own life, where when you're in a city or even in a populated area, you're very much influenced by others. You're very much influenced by your environment. And so that's key here, that our environment is influencing us. So you can think about it like a radio, and you know, you're trying to hear a whisper through that radio, but that radio has like a lot of static and noise, and so it's hard to hear that whisper. And that's our own inner voice trying to talk to us, trying to tell us, you know, what it is that would make our soul happy. So we can't hear that over all the noise of everybody else telling us what is the next best thing, you know, all the commercials, all of the notifications, everything that's on TV and on every screen. If you can disconnect from that, you actually gain your own autonomy. You gain like a sovereignty of being able to decide for yourself in every aspect what kind of foods you're going to eat. You're not influenced by, you know, commercials. You're influenced by nature. You begin to want to be part of nature. You begin to want to, you know, plant your own food, grow your own food, touch the soil, touch the grass. You begin to see all the critters around you and gain connections with them. You know, a lot of my messages come from seeing like the squirrels, the birds, the bees, the butterflies. If you really listen to my messages, most of the downloads and things that I talk about on this channel come from natural things that happen every day just from walking outside. When you're out in nature, you experience a frequency that I call unconditional love. Everything here vibrates in its own frequency. It's not taking from you. So nature, what it does is it just is. So this tree behind me just is. It's not, I'm not judging it. It's not judging me. It's not taking from me or anything like that. But when we go out into the city, what we notice is that everything is sort of taking from us. There's this commercial that wants us to listen to it. There's this person that's trying to, you know, throw out their own agenda, and it's taking from us. It also creates a very much of a fear-based reality for you, because if you're plugged in to all of these things that I'm talking about, you're not listening to nature, the unconditional love. You're listening to doom stories. You're listening to how there's nothing at the grocery store, how grocery prices are at an all-time high, how, you know, this person is crazy, how this person is crazy, how they're doing this really bad thing, and how these people are doing this really bad thing. And it's all this doom stuff. They go to the extremes, where in reality, none of that is really happening. If you live in the country, everything is peaceful. Everything is natural. There is stillness. There is space for you. despite what is happening in some other country. You can find your inner peace, your inner space here. And you see, you create your reality. So if you're plugged into all of these things and you're believing all of these, paradigms and psyops and all these weird things out there, then you're going to be plugged into something that is just sucking from you, taking from you all of your life force energy. Where the soil, the birds, the bees, the trees here, they have their own life force energy. They are just operating. They don't take from you. They don't need your life force. This sort of nature, it just is. It's not taking from you. It's actually just part of you. Where other parts of the world and like the city and the news and all of this sort of thing, it really has an agenda. It's trying to take something from you to be. And nature doesn't need that. Nature just is. So that's what's beautiful about nature. I love being out in nature. One of the things that you can do if you're having a hard time is just simply take a walk outside in nature. And when you do that, you experience the frequency of unconditional love, and everything kind of neutralizes. Your worries don't seem as big. But if I go out and walk in the city like I did this morning, a sense of anxiety arises, a sense of anxiousness and tightness. And, it just isn't the same. So this is why I really recommend getting in touch with nature. And so your intuition truly, it is a frequency that's, quite high. So when you get in the city, it kind of will lower because you're not in tune with your true self. You're in tune with everything else around you in a reactive manner, rather than just being in a stillness, in a kind of just being still manner, where you're just allowing things to be. You're having to react because there's no other way to get through that situation. But you don't need to react that way in nature. Nature does have things for us to learn. It shows us the seasons. It shows us the weather. It shows us time in a different way. So where, in the city, you're always rushing. You're always trying to get your time, to save your time, to beat time almost. In nature, or even in the country, or being away from people, you begin to sense a different type of time. The type of time that just is. It just shows you, if it starts to rain and you can't go work outside, it just is. You don't get frustrated and start yelling and screaming or, any of that stuff. It just is. Nature is just it's not raining. So that means I got to go do something else. So I'm going to go cook, or I'm going to go do, painting or whatever. And the seasons change, and sometimes it's very cold outside, so we spend more time inside. And so you're much more in tune with nature. You know what you need to take care of yourself. For example, in the winter, we chop wood and we bring it in and we use the wood to heat our home. We're aware of everything that's needed, and we take care of the trees. We take care of our land because we know that everything is a circle and circling back to us. So there's not this disconnection of just wanting to take. It's wanting to take care of, wanting to be part of, wanting to really be in that unconditional state of seeing how everything works together in a very, connected way. So that is the reason that I don't live in the city. I've chosen very consciously to live outside the city, and I will continue to do so. I have many different ideas of places I want to live, and none of them include the city. And I really enjoy the freedom, the liberation of going outside and being who you want to be. If you want to suntan outside, you can do that. If I want to make these videos without people walking around, getting involved, I can do that. I can be free here. And so that is a very, very, very huge thing. So you may want to consider where your time and space is going. Is it going to a place that's taking from you, where you're having to react all the time, or you're being influenced by others, or you feel like something is sucking the life out of you rather than nourishing you? And if you're not being nourished, where can you go where you can feel nourished? And if the people around you, if it feels like their interference is taking away from you hearing your inner voice, where can you go to find stillness? Where can you go to find space? That is the question. So I really encourage you today, as a confirmation, as a message to you, where can you go to find yourself again? So I have a new coaching program called Returning to Yourself. It's a 4-week coaching program that I'm putting on starting June 11th. This is a very, very interactive container with me where we do one-on-one sessions and we work through connecting back and returning back to ourselves, remembering the truth of who we are, and really operating from a space of total sovereignty, of total freedom, and hearing our inner voice without the interference, without getting lost in the world. We're returning back to ourselves. So if this sounds good to you and you'd like to sign up for my coaching program, you can find how to sign up in my description and in the comments down below. But it's really as simple as emailing me at schoolofscarlett@gmail.com and letting me know I want to enroll. I want to enroll in this coaching program. I want coaching with you. Just go ahead and email me. Don't let your mind change what your heart has already decided. So go ahead and move forward in that if it's speaking to you now. I hope that this message found you well. I hope that it resonated with you. If it did resonate with you, give me a thumbs up. If you want to share down below what this message made you feel, comment down below. I would love to hear that from you. If you are new here, I hope that you will subscribe. I hope that you will come back. And to all my returning viewers, thank you so much for being here. I love you all. Thank you for staying till the very end. I will catch you on our next message. I love you all.